I've been working with two communities, both in Parkside. The one is Park Ridge and the other one is Bamford. There has been just a lot of promises being made to this community, trying to engage government departments. There has been some budget for this community for a housing rectification program, which never actually took place.
I've lived in this area for the last 55 years. The living conditions in Park Ridge is more worse than it was during the apartheid years. We've been promised since 1996, this project has been going on, 2014 to 2015, $250,000, nothing happened to that. We don't know what happened to that money. Then again, 15, 16, we were located 2 million for this project. Where is that money? The project is not on its feet yet. We'd like to know what happened to that money.
Citizens were becoming less engaged and less plugged in. So in the time that they were not plugged in, the mechanisms got hijacked. And when they wanted to come back in, those spaces were already now polarized. And so the space we're in now is a space where we are having to find alternative means for citizens to engage meaningfully in decision making and in local governance.
What kind of engagement?
It has been challenging for communities to engage government.
We as a community had numerous meetings with human settlement and government officials.
Their main purpose or sole purpose is to serve the communities. So they really need to be in those communities and understanding what is the community issue.
The sanitation crisis is currently the biggest problem in my school. Majority of the toilets are locked because they have been blocked for months. They stink and they are very dirty.
The evidence that we have here is that there is a sanitation crisis in our schools. In the schools we audited, we found that over 100 students share a working toilet.
Urhulumente imistake yakhe engage communities in order to identify problems zazo before abe kanti unokwenza lanto kuthiwa yi-service delivery. Yeah. So abazazi needs zabantu because akayi kwi-communities on the ground.
We're having to help fix the legislated mechanisms that aren't working anymore. So we're at that space.
Where do we government fall into the social audit?
The social audit for us was one tool that we could use in a continuum of assisting communities to demand accountability.
A social audit is a tool that we started using for residents to monitor budgets and monitor public spending by government to see if what government says they spend is exactly what reflects on the ground.
You guys have this thing on paper, but this is nothing. So my concern is actually what's going to happen after the social audit. Do we have like a plan in place? Do we have like a thing are we going to take action? Because that social audit was done in 2013. Yeah. After 2013, what happened?
Yes.
Do we have guys that were fired or did something happen to these guys who are chowing this money?
Yeah.
So that is actually my concern. What are we going to do as a group, or will we like involve lawyers to be part of this the struggle of us against these guys who are eating our money?
That's $1 million question, and I think that's the reason why we're here.
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, and it's what we're grappling with in conducting social audits as to what happens next. Because you can't go into a community and just excite people with information and but the government officials who come and interact. So what next? And it speaks to the impact.
In this struggle, you don't need to be alone. You need alliances. You need people on your side to help you get information and also to support the campaign.
Seeing people being involved in making a difference in their lives is really amazing.
It was empowering in nature and really allows communities to walk in the front lines of their own struggle.
The first social audit that we conducted was looking into the provision of chemical toilets in informal settlements. Government outsources some of the services to private companies, and they pay these companies millions of rands, and these companies are not delivering what they're supposed to be delivering. So the chemical toilets were provided by a company called Mshengu Services, and the main idea was to check whether this company was doing what it was paid to do.
The time was they giving us this Mshengu, they say it's a 6 months contract, but it's more than 6 months now, it's 7 years. So, with peace, with no violence, we want this thing and that thing out.
There are toilets like that one that is in a state that you cannot use it, but it might be paid by the city, and people not knowing that it's not supposed to be paid.
A social audit compares reality to what is on paper. The people are the most important thing. Them being part of the process is not just them being a spectator in the process, but them being hands-on.
People have been very positive in terms of attending, commitment, and their dedication, their time. They arrive early, they participate, and they don't leave early. They wait till you finish and they come back tomorrow. They write down, they ask questions. So it's been quite very good.
Regarding the Indian activists as pioneers of social audits, because that's where the first social audit in 1990 was conducted. We went there to learn how they conduct social audits and what are the challenges they're facing in the context of their own country, and to see how we can use the learnings that we will have or that we will get from India in the South African context to actually conceptualize social audits in the South African context.
In the context of social audits in South Africa, there's today not been a social audit where we can actually take into account budget information. Yeah? So in the Indian context, they were able to access budget information to this point of service delivery. We in South Africa are not able to get that. So it's not the inability of the CSOs to get that information, it's just that that information is sometimes produced by government but not available to citizens.
हम आपकी ग्राम सभा के सदस्य नहीं हैं, तो सबसे पहले हम अनुमति चाहते हैं आपकी ग्राम सभा में भागीदारी करना चाहिए। मैं तो आपकी मदद के लिए कह रहा हूँ, जी हम लोग जाने, आप लोग जिनको वोट आएंगे नहीं आएंगे।
There is a specification, like for instance, it should reach a minimum of 3,000 PSI.
I think their policies are very good. The issue of information, that was just remarkable. Because in South Africa, you wouldn't go anywhere and see information that is pasted outside the hall or a school or a building, a construction building, where it's going to tell you the budget and the plan, when it's going to be started to be built, how long it's going to take, what is the name of the contract. You have to pay for those things. You have to make a request. They're going to take like months and months for you to get them. So by that time, I think they have more chance to look at things, and even if things are not going well, they can actually intervene or submit their report and stuff. I think that was so cool for me, because we can try to adapt that new thing at SJC and on other organizations that we work with.
The main idea is that there has to be dialogue between government and the beneficiaries or the recipient of a certain service. That process is usually happens in a form of a public hearing, where the people who are involved in a social audit gather together, and even some people who are not involved in the social audit, and then the evidence is presented to government, to service providers if they are private service provider, and to the broader community, so that there's dialogue and government and communities have to agree on how to resolve some of these issues. A social audit which I would say was most successful was Equal Education's social audit. They conducted in more than 200 schools in Gauteng, where they were checking the level of sanitation services in those schools.
Okay,
I'm an equalizer, so basically my work was to go back into our toilets and actually take pictures of how they look like. We actually conducted surveys in terms of how many toilets are working, how many toilets are blocked, how many taps are non-functional in our toilets. Are we actually provided sanitary pads? Are we actually provided soap and toilet paper?
We consulted principals of the schools, the district officials, and also the MEC of Education in Gauteng. Then after that, we had our march. We got a positive response because as we're speaking, the MEC last year addressed the number of equalizers in the march. He said that he managed to raise about 150 million to address the sanitation crisis in Gauteng and 15 million specifically for Tembisa.
The struggle for quality education cannot be betrayed. Your pain is my pain. That the conditions that you are in must be improved. And I reaffirm my commitment to equal education. I support all the programs of equal education, and we will change the face of education in this province. And I can assure you, quality education will happen in our lifetime.
Though there is a continued sanitation emergency, the audit indicates that EE's Sanitation Gauteng has won real victories. We note the 150 million that has been invested, and we do see the results. It is proof that activism as we gather here, comrades, can win real results. And it shows that government can fix the problem where there is political will.
My name is Fatima. Just two quick questions. Whether you could reflect on the potential of social audits to hold private power and private providers to account.
Really, do you disseminate information to them?
It's not just about social audits, it's about government, governance, listening to people, service delivery versus public service, what the government is really there for. Do they hear citizens? Do they not listen to citizens? And is the social audit at the end of the day going to be reduced into a top-down approach where citizens are expected to speak in the language that government officials demand of them?
It's relevant in one way or the other. And this is what I'm trying to get to. But how do we make sure we all participate in an equal and meaningful way?
Our role is to facilitate and to encourage government departments that are involved in, I'm hesitant to use the term service delivery. Public services, thank you, yeah. To ensure that they wrestle with this important part of public service, which is hearing and listening to the communities that they serve.
The problem is not a lack of service delivery. The problem is a gap between government and the governed, which leads people to rebel when they do not think they are being listened to. And therefore, both because democracy requires it and because we are unlikely to have peaceful, effective government in our cities until that happens, it is very important that government become responsive to citizens.
Working with the community, it's great. and it changes their perspective. It makes them see that I actually deserve better services.
The data was scrutinized, it was triple checked. We had to work on weekends to make sure that the information is accurate, and there was a time and an effort. Even though some of us were bored and tired, but hey, we had to do what we had to do.
You need to understand that these are not paid researchers. They didn't go to school for this. So that is a challenge, and it needs to be noted that you will have that challenge. So at times the tool is questioned because of that.
Okay. Ingaba xa uya niba ngaphi toilet?
By two.
By two.
The second thing, which most people do not look at when we're conducting social audits, the dangers that we're putting ourselves into. This is a very political space. And if we're speaking about corruption, there's people benefiting from corruption. And if you're then going to expose them, you might expect them responding to you or threatening people. So the other side of it, when we saw one Muguri member being stabbed on the neck as a result of corruption being exposed. So those are some of the things that we should expect, that this is a very political space.
Sometimes it's kind of a three-pronged attack that we need to take, and it comes down to research, mobilization and public pressure, and then kind of the legal work. So you need to find out who the people you need to put pressure on. You need to find those people. You can have all the documents in the world, but if you can find whose head is on the block with regards to this information, where they're not following their own procedure, they're not following the law, that's the person you need to put pressure on. And then with regards to mobilization, this is the public pressure. You take basically who these public figures are that are basically the gatekeepers to whatever decision you want, whatever change you want. And you've got to mobilize, you've got to be organized, you've got to get communities to rise up and basically put pressure on these people publicly. And then lastly is legal pressure. You have to have a strong legal case, and this kind of is a way of enforcing and backing up government action.
Somehow government expects, in a way, communities to participate without information, without providing information, and communities to meaningfully engage without information being provided. So I think, in closing, there is an important role that needs to be played by national government, and I think some of the role that is being played by GPME and Treasury is welcome and should be applauded. But I think other national government departments and provincial government departments and organizations or departments such as COCTA and SALGA all have a huge role to play to make sure that everyone comes to the table and that the table is full.
Nisibona silapha sisuka ku-afesis-corplan kodwa ke sisupporta abahlali base-Park Ridge kunye nabahlali base-Bamford.
I expect we must all stand together and fight these issues. I don't want one of us to say, no, I'm not on that list.
I'm hoping that we come to a point as citizens that we have options. Maybe we can come together and think about how we can be strategic in challenging the government and service providers.
There is a need to build capacity, there is a need to build civic agency. And so it's a responsibility of everyone just to ensure that there is a building of civic agency and that people are able to meaningfully contribute to local governance.